experience so much fear when we face the fact that we are not in control, that there never was a self to begin with that could manage or control or narrate or label. There was just a belief that there was something there. And that is deeply uncomfortable because if we believe still to some degree that we are a separate self in a, big scary world, then that belief in also our agency brings some sense of comfort. But a much bigger sense of comfort comes from recognizing the inherent emptiness of that self, that there never was a separation, that we are everything that is appearing, and we are the space in which it's appearing in, and these two are also not two. There's just simply no separation. And how to play with that in meditation is noticing when there is a subtle sense of self or like a self-like part that is meditating, that is managing the experience, that is managing the process, that is maybe narrating and labeling and moving our attention, body scanning, labeling thoughts and sensations, emotions, noticing that that part runs on a similar belief in a separate self that is there to do all those things. And not only that, but it feels like a necessary thing, like a necessary requirement, because otherwise, who else is going to do it? And that gets to the really root of the illusion of a separate self because there's nobody there to do it. And it's not required. Drivers of, there is no requirement for it's like the, Tesla's new robot taxis, right? Like you don't need a or Waymo, whatever, like you don't there's no need for a driver. It drives itself. But with our conditioned minds being conditioned to there always being a driver at the in the driver's seat with their hands on the wheel, we feel uneasy, right? Because like, hey, like a car can drive itself. I don't think I can push that analogy any further. It's not a it's not a good one, honestly. But hopefully you get what I'm pointing to, that we are so conditioned to believe that even in the requirement, the necessity of there being some sort of a self, right, that does all those things, because those things can do themselves. Even though, as we begin to wake up, we begin to notice that just like the breath is breathing itself, you're not consciously breathing. I mean, if I name this now, you might kind of turn your attention there. You might feel like you have some level of conscious control of your breath. You can choose to stop breathing and hold your breath. You can breathe faster and slower, etc. But it's what I'm pointing to is more that experience of when you're not actively or consciously focused on your breath, right? Like the breath is just breathing itself. And this is why the breath is such a rich object of meditation as well, because as you go deeper into your breath, you might begin to notice that even with your conscious attention placed upon the breath, you're not controlling it because there is no you to control it in the first place. The moment that you choose, seemingly, to hold your breath, can you find the one that chose to do that? Can you find the justification for why you chose to hold your breath in that instant and not a moment from now? And that's when the thinking brain will kick in. It will give you all sort of explanations for why indeed you chose to do that. And the whole kind of, journey, the pathless path is recognizing that that's just not the case. It's just a thought. It's just a thought that will have you believe that there is a you who decided to hold their breath. And again, playing with this in meditation can be extremely productive because that's the moment when all of the more gross thoughts and sensations have been noticed and sort of unblended and disidentified from. And what remains is the more subtle and subtle and subtle layers of that, all the way down to noticing the noticer, the narrator, the meditator, and even the kind of, controller of attention and focus and the meditative experience itself. And we can begin to let go of that, to see through the illusion that something, someone needs to manage any of that actually, and begin to let go and drop further and further into the gap in between, and just falling into the stillness of being rather than doing. And everything will still keep doing itself, just like we forget about controlling our breath when we're not consciously focused on it. We don't just stop breathing, the breath keeps breathing itself. And so the meditation will keep meditating, and even the narration might keep narrating, but we no longer take ourselves to be that agent, that subject which is doing the narration. It's just narration doing itself, and the noticing happens, and the breathing happens, and the meditation happens. But we're resting as all of that and none of that at the same time. We are just we become so intimate with experience that the subject object duality collapses into one. So we are the breath and we are the meditation, meditating itself. And what seemingly evaporates, even though initially there seems to be like a remnant, at least that's how it's playing here, of a belief in that separate self that is still doing something. But it's like, seeing a rope in your rope, thinking it's a snake. When you come closer and investigate, you see that it's actually just a rope. You don't believe it's a snake anymore, even though when you look at it, when you glance at it real fast, it might still appear as a snake, but something in you learns that it's not. And so there is a release into just being rather than doing.